cousin Artie.
There we are. How's it going?
It's going good. You?
Everything could be better.
You don't want to show us that. You don't want to show the few people that are here that picture you showed me before.
People
of
will
what?
just have to watch the unboxing, the loot video on Friday.
You don't want to give them a preview of anything? Come
I did
on,
on
man.
my stream on Monday.
For God's sake, man! On his stream. This is our stream.
This is our stream. Hold on, I'll pull it up again.
Hey.
Since you're complaining now, there you go.
Look at that. This
isn't
Artie...
even everything. I forgot 3 things when I made the picture. So
okay, Artie, go ahead. Talk to me.
So about what?
About these games.
About well, a lot of it's Commands and Colors Napoleonics.
I know
everything that I was missing.
Was there? Hold on. Was there the 50% off or something?
No. Well, I mean, you get good prices from Enterprise games, so there was probably a slight discount, but not particularly seriously. Some of the RPG stuff was discounted. The older like Florantha stuff, those were all discounted. A couple of those were only $10 a pop. So
you bought the RAF, eh, man? I
bought the RAF, I bought the Desert Fox Deluxe, and I bought the Dragon and the Cross, which is Richard Berg's game about the Taiping Rebellion. No English rules in it. So gonna have to learn to read Chinese now.
Oh, really?
No, I found English rules on the internet, but it is all in Chinese.
Yeah, Mike. There you go.
So that answers that question. English rules are on the BGG page, so they're not hard to find. Fortunately,
okay.
The game looks neat. It's an interesting topic. I am aware of 0 other games on the topic. There is an old S&T game, hi Ken, on the Taiping Rebellion that this is a newer version of. So hello to everybody watching. So,
okay, Artie, man.
Anyway, let me get rid of this so we can actually start talking.
And you said we were talking about?
I didn't. Do we have a topic? Do I have to come up with a topic right now? I could.
You said you had a topic.
I did. I didn't. I had a topic. I don't remember having a topic.
When are we going to talk about the thing you talked about?
What thing?
The topic.
The topic that I talked about? When did I talk about the topic?
When you told me.
Right. When was that?
Last week.
Okay. I guess we're talking about... I guess, actually... So since we obviously need a topic, and under-treated topics are often a popular topic, you know what I'm saying? Asian history in general has not seen very much attention from the US and UK and Western wargaming publishers, right?
Asian history?
Asian history in general, like the Dragon and the Cross. The Taiping Rebellion was a major formative event in the history of modern China. We spent like 3 weeks on it in my history of modern China class. And there's there's no games on it. There's 1 or 2 games on the Boxer Rebellion. There's only a couple of big games on the Sino-Japanese War, which is, it's World War II, right? You'd think it'd be super popular.
Well, GMT's got a slew of Japanese games.
Dave, I wouldn't say a slew. Japanese history is a bit of an exception, but not that much. So there's 2 games in the Great Battles of History series, Ron and Samurai, and then there's Sekigahara. And I'm not sure I could think of another.
Well, there's Ren.
Right, I just said Ron.
You said Ron.
Ron, right. Presumably named after the Kurosawa film, which is a great film. If
awesome.
Haven't seen it. By the way, there's a Revolution Games sale occurring right now. So if anybody needs any Revolution Games, go ahead and head over to their website and check that out. They have decent discounts on a lot of Ziploc titles and a couple of new things up for pre-order in the Blind Swords series. I ordered 2 games, which ought to be here maybe this week. We'll see.
I'm trying to look for some Asian games that I have, and you're right, man.
Well, I mean, I don't have all the war games ever either, right? And if you look at S&T, for example, you'll find a decent number of examples, and there's a few examples in the other magazines as well. Games like the Dragon Engulfed the Sun, which is a hypothetical near future China invades Japan game that appeared in Modern War magazine a couple years ago. There's a second Korean War game that they also released in Modern War magazine. So you see stuff like that. But I mean, there's a lot of history there. Indian history, right? How many games do we see about Indian history?
Nada.
So there's the one entry in the Great Battles of History series, Chandragupta. And there's at least one entry in the Zenobia Awards finalists that I'm only listing it because I'm aware of it, and I can't think of any other examples.
Well, there's a coin game, Gandhi.
That's true, but that's modern, also very modern. That's 20th century. So, and I haven't had a chance to play Gandhi yet either. I'd sure like to, but it has not yet come up.
Is that Volko and his offspring who did that?
No, I forget who the designers were. It wasn't Volko. Bruce Mansfield? Was it Bruce Mansfield?
I don't know. Well, we got Mike Anthony saying GDW Games did India. Rafia or Rafia.
GDW Games did India. Well, I mean, there are some examples in the Great Battles of History series of individual battles that may have. I'm not sure where the Battle of Rafia took place. It was Bruce Mansfield, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Maori Wars is a. It's not Asia exactly, but at least it's in the right hemisphere, right? So, it's not American or European history.
Whoa, look at Jeff. He just hammered us.
Even there we go.
Oh, Yalu. That's it. I remember that. Yeah.
There's been several games on Yalu River, actually. One was, I think, an old GDW game. It might have been Yaquinto. I forget. There is an older game on the Battle of the Yalu River. There's been a few odds and ends of engagements in the Second Sino-Japanese War as well. But it was a huge conflict, right, involving millions of people and millions of fatalities, and one of the defining things again in the history of modern China, and there's not much treatment of it. I mean, how many games do we have on Rommel, for example?
Lots of.
I mean, I've got like 4, and it's not even a topic I consider myself particularly interested in. So,
would you consider the Korean War?
No, because I mean. Sure, but it's not really the kind of thing I'm talking about because Americans were getting shot at. So it's one of the examples where if we have, Stillwell in CBI, right? There's a couple games on that too. But we Westerners made those games because Westerners were involved because this is not to villainize the war game designers, right? We don't learn this history. I mean, I'm not sure. I think I knew the history of Stillwell because I had read some books as a teenager. Maharaja of Babylon Hill is a good example, actually. I'm going to say I think that's abstract enough that you're not really going to extract much history for it, but
Maharaja, that's the Brits against the Indians, right?
That I want to say that's basically diplomacy in India. That's my recollection of Maharaja. I might be thinking of a different game, but
it's the old Avalon Hill game. I think it actually goes for a pretty penny. Oh, yeah.
I think it probably does. A lot of Avalon Hill stuff now is going for kind of rich change, if you ask me, considering the volume of print that a lot of Avalon Hill games were printed at. I feel like, at least on eBay, I feel like the market is running really high. I cannot find a copy of Blackbeard, for example, for less than $50 in garbage condition, or less than $100. I'm talking the Avalon Hill Blackbeard.
The Avalon Hill
which is I think the better edition. To me, it's the more interesting edition of the game. The GMT edition is same designer. They're both Richard Berg games.
Yeah. So how different and how much crappier can it be? Because I hear people just lambasting that game.
I don't want to overstate it in saying that it's they're two totally different games. Berg basically started from ground zero and redesigned it for GMT. For
what reason?
I don't know. I mean, you read the designer's notes. I think that's in there, but I don't recall. I sold off the GMT game. I didn't find it that interesting, but I played and liked the Simier. It's on a hex grid, for example, and you got a lot of random tables. There's a lot of that in the new one, but not as much.
Has you know what? Since you said eBay, lots of cash. Did Dune come down? The first edition of Dune from Avalon Hill?
Yeah, not instantly, but it did come down. Yeah, it was running way over $100 a couple years ago.
Oh,
It's now running in the $30 to $50 range for decent condition copies.
So someone was holding on to that game, man. Scusi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that happens. I mean, there's people on one of the marketplace groups on Facebook selling their copies of Rising Sun off the ASL Rising Sun module because they know it's about to get reprinted and they want $400 for it. So it's, people want to speculate on this stuff. I guess I can't stop them. I don't have to pay the $400 rather than just waiting a month to get the new one. So. Oh, GMT's shipping, by the way. They got a container, a shipping container at Games. So,
and you know what games are going out?
Yeah, there's a note on the webpage. The ones I remember, the Tank Duel expansion and Normandy 44 third printing. There's like 4 or 5 other ones. I know I didn't order any of the ones that are in, so that's why
we should have Mark Simonich, or we should try to have Mark Simonich on, because man, this guy pumps out games like it's incredible.
I mean, I don't know that that's true. I mean, Mark reliably releases about a game a year, maybe slightly less than that. That's pretty good output.
That's pretty good.
I think relatively few designers match that. You got your Joe Mirandas and Ty Bombas, who are like mainstays of magazine games for a long time. Chris Perello did a lot of magazine games. Richard Berg, of course, was making a living at it, very prolific. Other than that, I mean, I'd say Mark Simonich is probably one of the more prolific war game designers working today.
Like, I haven't played a Simonich game. Once you play one Simonich game, like a 42, a 41, a 40, whatever, is it all the same? Do you know the system?
They're all a little bit different, actually. So the scale varies depending on the game. The scale for Ardennes 44 is different from the scale in Normandy 44, for example. They all have about the same footprint in terms of time frame, right? They're all like long sitting or weekend long games. The system is similar, so you don't like have to learn everything from scratch. But there's cool. There's a lot of little chromey pieces. Not a lot, but they're not super complicated games. I don't want to make it sound like that. But there's some chrome that has to be learned game by game. But then you start to see it more than once too. So like the roadblocks rule from Ardennes 44 shows up again in Holland 44, for example. I do like the new edition of Dune. It's do I have it behind me? I do.
So Artie, is Dune like a Cosmic Encounters type thing?
Yes, it's actually designed by some of the people that designed Cosmic Encounter.
You know what? You get to hate people you play with that game.
You can. I have not had that problem personally, and I've played it a couple of times now. But I can see people getting sore about it because there is like an explicit betrayal mechanism.
My God. I don't know. I'm not into this betrayal stuff, man.
It's a terrific game. It's an absolutely terrific game.
Yeah, Carl, you love Dune, eh, Carl? Well, yeah, rat.
Can't wait for the movie. October 22nd, I think. A couple of weeks then.
Victor, what's up, man?
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it is like it's like an area control faction driven game where each faction has a special ability that lets them do special stuff. That's Cosmic. I mean, that's the Cosmic Encounter model. The rules themselves are not that similar.
27 games
in early Imperial China. So I wonder how many of those are published by Asian publishers. There are a number of which in China and or Hong Kong or Japan. I mean, Command Magazine's still around in Japan.
Yeah.
Who knows what they've been up to?
I
don't read Japanese either.
I've got the Bonsai magazine. What is it? Takahishu Masahari? God, I'm bastardizing his name.
Takahashi Matsumoto. I forget.
That's his game. That's his baby, right? Bonsai.
He's done a bunch of stuff. When I hear Bonsai, I think of the upfront expansion, actually. So I can't picture that in my head. I'd have to look that up.
You talked about the Boxer Rebellion. Never play that game?
No. Which game are we talking about?
The Boxer Rebellion, the Victory Point Games one, the siege game. Keep up the fire. Keep the fire up.
Keep up the fire. No, I haven't played that. The only one of those I've played is Soviet Dawn, which I did like. That's not true. So that's the only one from Victory Point Games that I've played. I've played other games using the States of Siege model from White Dog Games.
You said you're not a big fan of State of Siege, eh?
No, I like it. I mean, I've got somebody was kind enough to send me We Must Tell the Emperor, which is probably one of the best ones. I think that would be quite interesting to see, actually. But there's enough games on the War of the Roses that cover that in broadly similar, type of mechanics that I think we're covered. I mean, Kingmaker is not that different. The Crown of Roses, I think, is like my definitive strategic level War of the Roses game. I'm good with that. It's a bit of a difficult game, but I like it. Oh, Trevor Justice designing a States of Siege game. There you go. And there's a million of them, right?
Trevor, what are you designing? What are you designing?
One of the cool things about States of Siege is that, not that there was the Lost Cause or We Must Tell the Emperor, although those are cool, that it lends itself to a small, relatively fast, inexpensive game, which means it's easier to use it on a topic that's obscure, right? Like the Boxer Rebellion, which there's not a lot of traffic on.
No.
Keep Up the Fire was released in 2011. Isn't Worthington redoing that?
Well, look, they redid the Soviet Dawn, so
yeah, their edition of it looks real nice too. Yeah, so I think we're talking about.
Is Trevor serious here? I don't know if he's serious or not.
The Destruction of the Constitution. Maybe. I don't know. Guess we'll see it when it comes out.
Trevor, I swear, man.
Phil got torched on the Upfront Kickstarter, apparently, which was a bad news Kickstarter. But then you can, several years later, I think you could turn around and get it on Wargame Vault. Either print it yourself, which is kind of a pain in the ass, or you can have them printed, and it's about $100 to get everything, I think.
Yeah,
we're good.
Should we have Trevor on?
Sure.
Trevor, where do I send it to? Who's your baby? You know what I'm saying, Trevor? Huh? Okay, Trevor, I'm going to send it on, what's that Twitter thing called? Twitter. I swear. You know what? I was thinking of getting off of Facebook and stuff like that because who cares? Who cares?
Well, it was down all day. What was that? Yesterday or Monday, something like that? Yeah, they weren't hacked. Actually, they did it to themselves as far as I could tell. So they had to cut their way into the room with the servers with an angle grinder, which is hilarious.
Hold on. It's a holiday in Cambodia. It's tough, kid, but it's life. You ever get into GBH or about Dead Kennedys? Not
really, no.
There's
at least one Dead Milkmen song that I like. I can tell you that.
Come on, the Dead Kennedys was it was happening back then, man.
Oh. I can't stand Facebook, and the only reason I'm still there is for the war game stuff. It's the only thing on Facebook that I think is worth anybody's time.
What about that out? You're talking about the marketplace.
The marketplace and some of the discussion groups are very good, actually. The Europa group is very good, for example. The Goss group is pretty good.
I met a Russian guy on the marketplace, and I buy my tobacco off of him.
Okay. On the Wargame marketplace? Did you just put that hair together in the last minute and a half?
No, this is every day.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Dead Kennedys, man, and Jello Biafra. There he is, man.
No, this is natural. I swear.
Man, hey, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice to see you. What's behind you there? Are you at a funeral home?
No. This is my workstation. So I put nice little flowers up. I guess I'm on this side.
Yeah, but they're dead, man. That's bad feng shui. Talking about Asian stuff. That's bad feng shui, my friend.
My wife is Asian. She put it up, so I have no complaints.
Can't
Whatever.
argue with that.
I have nothing to say. But good things. But good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Trev, your game, man. What's going on? I didn't know you were doing a game. And are you serious about something Constitution?
Yeah, so you remember I bounced this idea off you a little while ago when you were talking about come on and pitch your game design. And at the time I was pitching a game design for I just forgot the name of it now, but the last stand of the Sikhs during the British Empire, and there was, you know, like 50 of them that held out and basically protected a key trading port. So I had put together some stuff, and I've played a lot of State of Siege games, right? And, you know, just I have a full-time job. I have a wife, 3 kids, and, you know, we also run business. So there's a lot of things going on. And then I was like, man, you know, I should do one on like the fall of, you know, the Constitution. And you guys know Judd Vance. So
yeah.
He and I text back and forth almost on a daily basis, just about random stuff.
So is this game set in the year 2021 on January 6th, maybe?
So right now where we have it at is, you know, I have 4 or 5 different State of Siege games that, you know, they're all fairly similar, right? You have 4 or 5 tracks, you have 3 or 4 epochs, and you just run them in, you know, and you just move up the tracks, right? And I threw this idea out to Judd jokingly a while back, and he's like, oh my God, are you serious? Because that's like an amazing idea, right? And I'm like, well, I already kind of have the things. I just need, you know, you need about 50 to 80 cards that are like headlines, and then you figure out what track they're going to move, right? So we just literally in a day, we're texting back and forth about all the things that like diminish the Constitution, from, you know, Lincoln suspending habeas corpus to FDR putting American citizens in concentration camps. And that's all like 50, 60 years ago, right? That's not even counting the last 20, 30 years. So I put together probably 50 different headlines, and now you just kind of have to figure out what kind of epochs are you doing? Are you doing Constitution to like World War I, World War II, maybe World War II to like 1980, and then you can do 80 to probably 2000-ish, right? And then if you want to do a 4th epoch, 2000 to present day.
So, I mean, is it a touchy thing to do a game, a State of Siege game, with what happened at the you know what I'm saying?
Look, I'm designing this for people like me, Judd, that they're going to play and enjoy it. And I mean, State of Siege is not designed to be the next Twilight Struggle, right? It's not going to sell 100,000 copies, much less 5,000, right? Just put it together. I have like a rough idea. I mean, all you have to do is figure out like the courts map, like individual liberties. You just create the 4 tracks. So right now it's coming up with all the things that have diminished the Constitution and basically individual liberties. What are those that have happened over the last 250 years in America? And then which of them are the most important, right? Because those are the 50 to 80 cards that are coming out.
Sure. So, I mean, this raises a whole bunch of interesting questions, I think, about design approaches and how to pick material and how to sift.
Yeah,
a game like this is going to naturally have a point of view, and it sounds like the point of view is that enshrined in the Constitution is the idea that the Constitution is a document that protects individual liberties without qualification, and that's obviously facile bullshit, because slavery is contained and enshrined in the Constitution. So if you're going to ignore that, and if you know, we have to. These are things, the questions that a designer should be framing in their minds when they're putting the components to something like this together, right?
Absolutely. And these are all things that, you know, obviously, you know, I'm going to have a point of view, and it's not like I can just pick all Republican stuff that happened or all Democrat stuff that happened or all that was individual liberty or, you know, property rights or, you know, courts overstepping or anything, right? There has to be a balance with it, right? From, you know, what FDR did, to what Lincoln did, to what George Bush did, to what is going on, you know, in the last 10, 15 years. So it's more, like I said, it's more designed for me. If this ever goes and gets published, right, it's going to be something that is, I'm going to be one of those games that I'm not looking to win any friends with it, right?
But I mean,
well, I mean, I would hope that the point would be, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here. So I feel like the a desirable goal in this kind of process is to come up with a game that makes you think about these questions, right? So you know, to the extent that, you know, this or any other product does make you think about the questions that it asks, that's a good design goal.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, Trev. Can't you be completely unbiased and just go with the facts? The cards are facts, and then
you can't. There's that's a that the facts don't have a point of view is kind of the facts do have a point of view. Let me put it that way.
So Dan, just so you can kind of get an idea, one of the ones I was talking about, my niece is 17. She's going through high school. She's lives with us. So we were talking about this, and on what Jeff was talking about, one of the court decisions, right, was Marbury versus Madison 100 years ago. Right. And what happened is in that the Supreme Court decided that they would be the ultimate decider on what the Constitution meant, right? So the final say was not, you know, majority. It wasn't a group of people. It wasn't, you know, Congress, right? 500 people. It was 9 people would be the deciding factor, and really 5 on what the interpretation of the Constitution was. So basically, in that court ruling, Marbury versus Madison, the court said, hey, we're the ultimate decision, right? So I'd be like, if the 3 of us get together, I'd be like, hey, you guys are great, but I'm going to be the one who decides what we actually do. I mean, it's kind of like, well, what about the other, you know, billions of people that live here?
I know.
So there are a ton of court decisions, and I mean, unless you know, are an ostrich, right, or a carrot, you're going to have an opinion or a leaning towards one way or the other on every single card in the game.
And subsequent history has an opinion, even if you're just looking at it from the standpoint of factual things that happened. Subsequent history has an opinion on things that happened before.
So what? That's what we have to go on. We have to go on those opinions, because that's history, isn't it?
I furthermore suspect that if you really tried hard and managed somehow to create a game that had no opinions expressed in it somewhere, that it was only 100% facts, that you would end up with possibly the most boring game imaginable.
For God's sake.
That's this hunch that I have.
You're going to have Monopoly.
So Trevor, Judd is into this?
So Judd has professionally written and edited rules, right? And he knows State of Siege as well as anybody else, right? He plays them annually. He'll play 5 or 10 of them, and he plays them over the year. Again, he and I are both mindset-wise in the political arena kind of lean towards the same route. So when we were talking about things that like destroyed the Constitution, right? We rattled off 50, 60 things, and I'm giving him now like cards, like, here's what this could do. What do you think? Right. And I'm sending it to him like, hey, what do you think of this? So there's a lot. I mean, there's no games, right? I don't even have a board to like where you can push around chits. But if you take any State of Siege game, whether it's We Must Tell the Emperor, Ottoman Sunset, or any of those, and just change it around, and then you can kind of play test and push and pull from there, then you can kind of get a rough idea. But it's something we've been bouncing around for a little bit now. So,
you know who might be interested in something like that? Uwe Eichert from Academy Games, man.
So yeah, that's true, but I don't know if he does any State of Siege games per se.
I'm
right?
not aware of any, but you know, well, States of Siege is really a model and not a series, and there's games in that series that have been produced by several different publishers.
Would this be an educational type game also?
So there are games out there, right? And one of them I own was a print and play copy, right? And then Jolly Rogers Games picked it up. They said they were going to produce it. I remember pre-ordering it. It was a game called Free at Last, right? And I remember that game specifically because that game was designed to recreate a portion of what happened in America, but it was not designed for you to like make friends, right? Because one of you played people looking to get freedom in the South, and the other was you were oppressing people, right? Those were the two sides. So someone had to play the bad guy, right? And this is why Jolly Roger Games ended up not printing it, but I still have that print and play copy. And I think that was a turning point when I realized that there are games that come out that recreate a historical event or events that are not designed to be like published per se, right? They're just there to create a narrative and allow you to, I mean, I have 3 kids, right? And my oldest boys are 9 and 11. So there are times when it's hard for me to approach situations, right? Or talk about subjects without throwing out a game and then talking about it while we're playing a game.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, you definitely could, because some of these things, you know, people look back and be like, oh, well, it was worth it at the time. You know, Lincoln suspending habeas corpus.
Yes, I understand.
Well, Lincoln thought so.
But like, you know, was it really? Okay, I get it.
It's like, you know, it's funny. Ben Hall, I just interviewed Ben Hall, and he put this thing in my head. He said, we think that people back then, were more stupid than we were. And no. So we have to take the history into context, man. Yes, no? Am I going to get shot here? What's going to happen?
Well, you are Canadian, so.
Yeah, so, yeah, you know, I'm sorry.
I mean, anybody that I'm not sure that folks generally thought people used to be stupider. Some people probably feel exactly the opposite, actually. I mean, I think what I'd like to say on this type of thing is that I think you can and we should be seeing games on difficult subjects. In Trevor's mention of this unpublished game, for example, This Guilty Land is a game about, you know, the politics of slavery, published by, and it's a difficult game, right? It's not a fun game, right?
The HOLLANDSPIELE one, right?
The HOLLANDSPIELE one, yeah.
What about Freedom?
I've played Freedom. It's a brilliant game, but Freedom is a co-op game. The game is slavery. You are playing the Underground Railroad. Yeah. So it doesn't put a player in that awkward position of saying, I'm going to run this abhorrent institution.
Right. God.
So, and that's one way around that type of thing. I learned more about the Underground Railroad in playing Freedom than I did, in however many years of school I had. So,
well, yes, of course.
So yeah,
it was American school, admittedly, but
with Freedom, the Underground Railroad, was another groundbreaking one, because my boys and I have played that every year. I mean, I kickstarted that and we've played it every year, and it's every February. It's a conversation we have about, because I mean, look at me. How do I have that conversation with my kids in any other context, right? Other than just sitting down and talking to them, but they're boys, right? They want to be able to do something while they learn. So I don't know. It may have, educational value, but there's a lot of touchy subjects, and if you use it for kids to educate kids, you're gonna have to deal with parent outrage.
So are you actually?
Funny, Jeff should mention about the Canadian Rebellion in the 1830s. There is a game. It's not a coin game, but there is a game on that.
Yeah, it's
Compass Games Prelude to Rebellion.
Yes, it's Marco Poutre. He's a Quebecer who designed that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. I haven't played it. I do know that there's a game using that system or similar system on the Russian Revolution coming.
So, Trevor, let me ask you: Are you what's a good synonym for scared in trying to publish this game?
No, I'm not scared at all. I mean, it's more that you know, you run a channel that every week you have to get together and look at 17 different channels on what they put out, right? It's a lot of time and effort and monotony going into it, right? You have to look at Artie's channel and, you know, Farmer's Aid and all these guys, right, at what they put out. It's a lot of time going in, right? And you know, if I get a couple of hours, great, but you know, that's no, I might publish it under a, you know, pseudonym because
I was gonna say, yeah.
Whoa, you've blown that. Sorry.
I'm like, I started this idea. I'm going to publish it under a pseudonym. But yeah, I
just let Judd put his name on it. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Hello. I have, you know, Twitter, right? Like people can kind of get an idea of, you know.
I hope it goes. I hope you develop it, and I hope it goes through, man. And do you know Uwe? Like, do you speak to Uwe?
No, I don't speak to Uwe. But only when you're on here, and then I'll you know, bug you and talk to him.
No, I'm gonna pitch it. I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna pitch it, man. I swear to God. I swear to God.
No, Uwe's gonna make it look too nice, right? He's gonna get some like beautiful watercolor art and put it on all the cards, and
yeah, it's gonna be like Cosmic Encounter. You know, it looks all sci-fi-ish till you're stabbing the guy in the throat and drinking his blood, man, because he backstabbed you. What the hell, man?
No. I need the cards to look like We Must Tell the Emperor or, you know, Zulus, you know, just plain cards with a little newspaper.
A little flavor under it. And, I mean, this doesn't look like a smallish game.
Well, no, I mean, State of Siege games generally are one small board. I mean, they're like, could be 5x7, you know, 8x10 at the most, and 40, 50 cards, right? Maybe 80. And what? 10, 12 chits. I mean, what David Thompson's been doing with his, you know, all the Postman and all these games, they're fairly similar to State of Siege. You know, they are way more beautiful than what Victory Point put out. But so
I mean, I would say I'd agree with that. I think, and I think David had said this too, that say. Pavlov's House, which is the one I've played, is definitely a modified States of Siege model. And you can get a lot of mileage out of that with a relatively small loadout of pieces. As Victory Point games showed, I mean, they did a huge pile of not, those games often don't have huge decks either. They have decks of like 20 or 30 cards.
Yeah, because if it was an Italian game, it'd have a huger deck.
So have you seen, Dan, have you seen the game Democracy Under Siege?
No, it sounds like a Steven Seagal movie.
By I think, Italian designer and Spanish publisher.
Ivan Caceres?
I don't remember who the designer is.
Is this new? Is this new?
Oh, no, this has been around for a long time.
Because we Italian know our history.
Luca Camisa. Designer. It's an interesting game.
So Luca Camisa, yeah, okay. No.
It's 10 years old, that game.
Yeah, apparently. I played it at Compass Expo when I was there. Not from Compass, by the way. And in fact, it doesn't have a domestic publisher. It's a European game. It was a pain. It's a pain to get here in the U.S.
You see, Trevor, as a non-American, I would appreciate a game like that because I would learn a lot, man. I would learn a lot.
There is a game called Founding Fathers. Apparently there's two games called Founding Fathers. One of which I have seen, and the other of which I was just informed of like Monday, about the creation of the U.S. Constitution. And one of those is apparently I forget what I heard about it, and I don't know which version we're talking about either. But there's games on those types of topics.
You know, I don't know much. I don't know anything about the American history and the Constitution.
That's okay. Don't feel bad. Neither do most Americans.
But I mean, those guys who wrote the Constitution, they were incredibly okay. I know. I'm going to say selfless. Am I right?
No, not really. I mean, that's not what's smart. I mean, certainly, I think is a sensible adjective to I mean, a game like Founding Fathers could show this in action, right? And I think somebody was talking about this in the context of Nicaea, which is an upcoming HOLLANDSPIELE title about the Council of Nicaea. That these things are amalgams of competing interests. That's why we got the Constitution that we got. We got a Constitution that on the one hand talks about, it's a deeply ironic document, that on the one hand talks about liberty and protecting freedoms, and we had a Bill of Rights and all this other stuff. And on the other hand, we have written right in there, these people are property and can be killed and raped and abused however you like, because they're not people, they're property. That's a deep irony, right? There were conflicting interests, but that was the price that needed to be paid to put that together, so that we had one country fighting the British instead of 13 different ones. And that was the priority for a lot of those people. It was the higher priority.
Trevor, you didn't pitch this to anybody, eh?
Now, Judd and I.
It sounds like it's pretty early.
Yeah, it's early. I mean, the thing is the game is, most State of Siege games are going to be kind of similar, run similar, right? It's 3 or 4 tracks. It's the topic that is going to be. Let's be honest. I mean, no one's going to be able to publish that, right? I mean, and if they do, it's not going to sell, right? There's no way they can put that into a store, right? I mean, that's similar to like Free at Last. You can't put it up in a store and be like, one of you is going to be, the Alabama government, right? And it's going to be one of those that you can play at home. You can enjoy the State of Siege style of it, and you can learn a little bit about, hopefully some of the things that are. The thing with wargamers is we know quite a bit about history, more than average people, but you can learn a little bit.
I'm often disappointed. You're right, but I'm still disappointed more often than I would like.
I had mentioned before January 6th there, the storming of the Capitol, if I got it right. That would make an interesting State of Siege game. And no one says a word.
Well, thinking about it, I don't think it would make a good game, to be honest. Either you have this super narrow thing which is basically a war game, basically about beating cops to death with fire extinguishers, which I think most people would sound not fun. But the part of the States of Siege model is that you have these different things that you in the center have to defend against. In this case, it's kind of just one thing, right? So I don't. Could you incorporate that into a game with a bigger concept? Maybe. Well, but if it just January 6th, the insurrection, I think that would be a terrible game to focus on that.
Well, Dan, if you wanted to design, that kind of State of Siege, or, basically like a defend the tower type game, I mean,
I'm calling Uwe. I'm telling him you're working on it. He'll have the finished design in his hands by the end of the month.
Yeah, and tell him your follow up to that, like the sequel to it, is the Allies invading the Port of Calais.
And what's wrong with that? I don't get it. I missed something here.
Yeah, because
I missed it. I don't get it. So the Allies didn't invade the Port of Calais.
No, they didn't.
Hold on. We're talking
They
about.
invaded at Normandy instead.
What am I thinking of? Hold on. What am I thinking of? Oh, Point d'Arc. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's right there. That's literally right next to Omaha Beach.
Yeah. No. Yes.
You're gonna get some comments on that. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Look, I'm ADD. I'm sorry. I'm Canadian.
I may have to check out Founding Fathers, actually. It's not a pricey collectible as far as I'm aware, and it sounds relatively interesting. This is the other one. I've never seen this thing. The one I've seen is the one from the 2010 one from Jolly Roger Games. That's the one I've seen.
So the Jolly Roger game one is it's very good. I've played that with my kids. The one what's that print and play company where you can send off and they'll print stuff for you?
Wargame Vault. Are you talking about Wargame Vault? Or are you talking about like
the more general one?
Game Crafter?
Yeah, so you could. I own that Founding Fathers game as well, although I've never played it. You can or you. When I ordered it 5 years ago, you could order it there. I don't know how much it would cost then. So,
I think your idea would be great. I would learn so much. I would learn so much about Americans. This fly has been after me all day.
It does look like Jolly Roger Games is not really in business anymore as Jolly Roger Games. Yeah, it looks like they got bought by Ultra Pro.
So Dan, yeah, you should invest in a salt gun.
Ugh.
And murder those little flies that fly around.
That will do it.
I live in Canada. That word gun doesn't exist.
Call the Royal Canadian Mounted Police then.
Wait, and you want them to ride on their moose?
Yes, exactly. They'll ride in and save the day on their moose like Dudley Do-Right.
You know, I was joking once to some, I forget when and whom, and I said, yeah, in Toronto we have polar bears in Toronto, you know, and the person truly believed me. Really? Oh my God, Toronto!
We have polar bears here in Ohio too, at the zoo.
Do they look like my ex-mother-in-law?
That sounds like a personal problem to me.
She's dead.
So Carl says you can still get that on the Game Crafter.
Yeah.
So Game Crafter has all kind of interesting little bits and bobs for all kind of different games, by the way. So it's worth pawing through their selection at some point. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that if we say, hey, this is a topic that's difficult or politically sensitive, that we shouldn't make a game on it. I totally disagree with people who think that, and I don't know anybody who has tried to say that, but I think there are people who feel that way.
The HOLLANDSPIELE game, there was a disclaimer, wasn't there? Or on GMT, there was a disclaimer about a certain game that wasn't even published. It was taken down from the P500.
So you're talking about Scramble for Africa, and I think what that more fell prey to than anything else is a lack of vision when it came to actually putting it up on P500. I think they didn't have. That's a difficult topic in a lot of places in the world. Bad stuff happened, right? It's, I think, reasonable for people to get upset about that bad stuff. How do you create a game about those topics that is that treats the topic respectfully, and in a way that explores the serious questions, rather than just being, hey, let's go make the most money by butchering people in Africa.
Well,
and the sales pitch, the GMT sales pitch for that on the page was not clear about what kind of game that was supposed to be. And I think that's why they took that much crap over it.
Well, have the game be the bad guy. Make the game.
Okay, that's the approach that
that's the safest way to go, man. Because I wouldn't want to play a colonialist in Africa.
A collaborative game. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one way to do that. I don't know that it's the only way, but it's one way to do that, and it's probably a relatively easier way to do that. But that's not the the thing that was pitched. So, and maybe that thing will resurface somewhere else. I don't know. We did have a game about the exploration of Africa that released in the last year or so from
you're talking
Legion
about
War Games. That's Heart of Darkness, Kim Kanger game.
Yeah,
now, I haven't looked at that.
Yeah,
but that did not take anything like the amount of flack.
Scramble
for Africa did. Then again, Legion War Games is a lot smaller than GMT.
Didn't Source of the Nile? Isn't that the same game as Source of the Nile?
I don't know that that's correct. I mean, it's certainly the same basic idea as Source of the Nile, yes. But I don't know to what extent the game actually grew out of the mechanics of Source of the Nile. I've got Source of the Nile, and I think it's an interesting game. I think it's worth playing. I have not played, nor do I have any experience with Heart of Darkness.
And it's here, Achilles.
It's totally true. Well, it's true, but I mean, some topics are more sensitive than others. In some cases, because they are more recent. In some cases, recency doesn't seem to matter. So,
Look, you know, to learn about history, a game is much easier for people to play than read a book about that subject.
Well, that depends who you talk to, too. I mean, I think so, but some people find it very easy to read books and very difficult to play games. And there's people that feel the opposite, too. People who will say, I'll just read a book on that. Okay, if you do that, then good.
But Dan, also with books, generally speaking, is when you're reading it, you don't really reject what you're reading per se. But if I'm teaching you a game about, you know, America, you know, fighting Canada, and I tell you how the game's played, I'm like, oh yeah, Canada is very, you know, underutilized in this. You're going to be like, hey, wait, why? Right? Versus if you just read something about it, and then I'm just using you and me as an example.
I see. My God, it's just a game. Or is it?
Some people
get hung up on the idea that, well, it's a game, so therefore it is an entertainment product.
I understand.
Unironically not applying the same logic, which there is a logic to that, right? But they don't then apply that same logic to films or books or whatever. One thing books are good at is giving you the facts. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. The thing that games are good at is giving you the pieces that allow you to, as the pieces interact as the game plays, that allow you to understand the dynamics of the situation. And some books can convey that, but that's a difficult task for a book. It's a much easier task for a game. A movie will show you, hey, here's what all this stuff looked like, right? So they're different media that are good at different things.
Look, okay, Carl, here's another guy. I mean,
we could send the post office in. That would be fine. I would be fine with lower postage rates to Canada. That'd be cool.
Hey, Carl, you guys tried to invade us in 1812.
We weren't very serious about it, admittedly. But
Dan, I have your address. I'm just gonna buy you a salt. A salt tamer.
It's not going to happen. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. I just sent some tobacco that I vacuum sealed really thin to put in an envelope to Carl in California, and it was rejected. So forget it, man.
They thought it was anthrax.
Yeah, it's like, didn't you guys just ban New Zealand from the postal service?
For parcels, at least. I don't know about letters.
Why would I send anything to New Zealand?
The U.S. Postal Service just
come on. New Zealanders need loving too, huh?
Well, and games, right? The worst place in the world for gaming is Australia, New Zealand, as far as I can tell.
You mean
because there's one domestic publisher down there, ADG, and they've got some cool stuff, but that's it, and everything else is a tremendous pain in the rear to get.
I wonder what it costs to buy a game there, man.
If it's from ADG, it's probably, well, you could just go look it up on their website. It's about $300 Australian or $200 Australian, which is about, I don't know, $15, $20, something like that.
We before we went to Vietnam 2 years ago, right? My wife's Vietnamese. I was like, hey, I want some games, but I don't want to like travel all the way there. So I bought some games, 6 months in advance and shipped them to Saigon. Yeah, they didn't show up until like 8 months after I left.
Really? I thought they didn't show up because they were censored, man.
They may have been. I don't know. It's a communist country, so I have no idea.
One of my friends came back from Vietnam and brought back some books concerning the Vietnam War. A totally different point of view.
We're really just starting to see different points of view than the point of view of like that we saw in the popular press about the Vietnam War. Actually, just in the last 15 years, where there's really, it's like I talk to people, it's like, can you give me like a book recommendation? They're like, there really isn't anything. There's like good books about these specific things that happened during that war, but like there's not a lot of good historiography on the Vietnam War overall.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would tend to believe,
because it's too sensitive, right? There's really not many games on it. If you think about it, there's more in the last couple of years. We've seen a few, but there's not that many.
You know, this sensitivity thing there, we got to learn from history, mistakes and or not. But I mean, look, since the Holocaust in World War II, there hasn't been another genocide since then.
Oh yeah, there has.
Yeah, there
I
has.
know there has.
They're genociding right now in Southeast Asia.
Man, and what happened in Rwanda, man?
So, and yeah, I mean, it's a, you know, I hate to say this, but it's a you know, a thing that happens in humanity.
You know,
the humans get up and they want to kill these other humans.
Here's a story. I got a story. You want to hear a story?
Maybe.
I had a gig once, and I played for Romeo Dallaire, the General Romeo Dallaire, who was in charge of, I think, the UN in Rwanda, right? And this was a big dinner thing and all that. And right after we ate, you know, we played, we ate, and our stomachs are full. He pulls out pictures, man. The gruesomeness of those pictures, it was ridiculous. That's my story.
That's weird, man. Not on your part, but on somebody that was just in casual conversation whip that kind of thing out.
No, there was about 400 people.
Okay.
And he whipped it out because he was trying to make a point.
Okay. Well, then you know, maybe there's a point to be made with that. Hard to tell outside of context.
Well, his point was that he was not listened to and he was not supported because he said there's a genocide that's going to happen, and well, it happened.
I'm glad
I don't want to be dismissive of those things, but we, you know, if somebody wants to do a game on that, they better be super careful about dealing with a topic that's sensitive, right? I wouldn't try to try a game on that topic. And I applaud the bravery of somebody who wants to, but they're going to have to be very careful about the sensitivity of that subject.
Trevor, you into making a game?
No. So just while you were talking about that, and I've thought about this, is there's on any genocide, including but not limited to the Holocaust, I mean, you could do a state of siege or like a what was that survival game where you had to, like, I forget what it's called. But who first off, why would you want to play that?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, reading about it, going to like the Holocaust Museum, taking my kids and explaining that's heart-wrenching enough. I don't need to gamify that.
No, you're right.
I mean, how do you? And I'm not saying there isn't an affirmative answer to this, okay? But I can think of no way in which you could gamify that and have it not be ghoulish. At best, right? You know, and to say nothing of disrespectful. So this is, you know, it's a difficult topic, and I you know, there have been games on it, and they were ghoulish and disrespectful. So those people do not get invited to the nice parties anymore.
But Trev, the State of Siege game that you're doing with Judd, that's not disrespectful.
It's not, but there are going to be, I mean, from what I've written down, there are going to be things that are, even to this day, you know, sensitive topics, right? And that's America's history, right? I mean, there was slavery, right? The Asian American citizens were put in concentration camps and lost all their, you know, possessions. I mean, there were atrocities that America has done, right? And, you know, going to war and not calling it war, so that way it just could decide to do it, right? Circumvent the Constitution. So there's a ton of things that are going to be, you know, trigger points for a lot of people.
But I mean, if we were put in that situation about the Japanese internment camps in the States, what would we have done when the Japanese are attacking us? What are our options?
There were relatively few people who complained about it at the time, other than the people actually being interned, who were displeased, obviously.
Yeah, but they lost.
Yeah, I mean, that was widely popular. That was a widely popular move. That was seen at the time as a widely popular move. So, but you know, it did happen, right? What would be potentially an interesting thing to ask is, what were the dynamics, the social dynamics that resulted in that? And could things have been done differently? I don't have answers to that, but there isn't necessarily an automatic no to doing a game on that subject.
Yeah,
but
it needs to be a smart game, right, and not a dumb game. If it is a dumb game, then there's no reason to engage with it.
Look, man, it's not just the Americans that did stupid things. The whole bloody world did. The Brits did stupid things. The Canadians did stupid things. Something fierce. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so I was reading today that Nasser, president of Egypt, was very cooperative with German agents during World War II because he wanted allies against the British who were occupying his country, and the Germans were fighting them. So
it makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, Nasser doesn't know what's going on elsewhere necessarily either. I have no idea. But the point is that the nobody's hands are completely clean.
No way, man. No way.
So,
anyways, gentlemen, we're past our time. Please, Trevor, stick around. Cousin Artie, stick around. Guys from the Peanut Gallery, Stigler.
Yeah, we didn't get the answers. A whole bunch of good questions that we didn't get to ask. So if you asked a good question, ask it next week. And if it was a dumb question, then just forget about it.
Maybe Trevor will show us some of his game stuff sometime soon. So, okay, guys, thanks for being on. Guys, wait, don't split, Trevor. I got to speak to you for a second here. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen.